Hi, this is Jen, and thanks so much for joining me today. Today I'm creating several cards with texture, and my go-to for texture usually on cards is a stencil and some sort of paste, but I wanted to see what I could create with texture without using a paste or stencil. And so what I'm going to use for these three cards for texture is mainly my embossing folders. And I've gone ahead and I've picked out several embossing folders that I want to use. I didn't want the embossing folders covering the entire panel, so I have these little folders. They're called Easy something or other. I don't think they're available any longer, but they're a piece of plastic, and basically how it works is you take your sandwich, your Sizzix sandwich, and you put the embossing, or you put the paper in your embossing folder. And for this card, I went ahead and I positioned it kind of crooked. And then you take your little, it's basically a piece of plastic. I want to say it's probably like a placemat maybe. So if you wanted to make your own, probably would be not too difficult to buy a placemat and cut it up in different shapes. So this is the sandwich. You actually put the folder or the a plastic piece on top, and then you put the plate on top of that and then run that through your embossing machine. And basically what it does is it leaves a space where it's not going to emboss that embossing folder, and that is exactly what I wanted. And so for this first card, I'm using my HUVO shimmer shakers, and I'm using Golden Sparkler and Bavarian Blue. And so all I'm doing is sprinkling that and then activating it with the water, and then moving the material around on my card by spraying with water and using my paintbrush. I think I just said spraying with water. But the paper that I am using for my card panels for all three cards is the Canson XL watercolor paper. And I'm using that mainly because it is a very inexpensive watercolor paper that you can get pretty much anywhere. I know I usually try and buy mine at Walmart because it's about $5 or $6 for a pad, which is excellent. And so after I've gone ahead and put my color down on this panel and made sure it was thoroughly dried, I took a piece of sandpaper, and I'm sorry, I don't know what the grit on it is. It was just in my little caddy that I have. And so all I'm doing is I am removing the ink from that embossed flower image. I wanted the white to show through and not the color, and so I went ahead and I took some sandpaper. You just have to make sure that your paper is thoroughly dry or it will tear, and just very lightly go over the top of those embossed images, and it will remove that ink and leave you with the white portion. And then next I wanted to darken up the background a little bit, so I went ahead and I put some powder on my mat and then watered it down. And I'm just taking a paintbrush to go back over some of those areas to make them a little bit darker. And at the end, I'll go ahead and show you the cards that I've completed. So this next, this next card, I am using the embossing folder. Is called a hexagon, I think, or something, distressed hexagons. And I'm taking this mask that's circles, and I just took my embossing dabber and put that so that there was some embossing ink on my card through those circles. Didn't exactly give me a lot of definition, but once I did that, I went ahead and I took some ultra thick embossing powder and sprinkled that on, and then heated that up, and it gives this really thick, shiny embossing powder, more so than a regular embossing powder. And what I wanted was there to be those little valleys that the ink can travel through. I love the way that looks, and I am taking these QOR watercolors, which are new to me. They're super beautiful watercolors. They spread really, really nicely, and so that's one thing I love about them. So I'm using two of the colors, and I'm just spreading them around with my brush and with water. And then once the panel is completed and there are still wet spots on it, I go ahead and take this LIQUITEX acrylic paint and splatter that, just so that it's still wet, because I want that gold paint to suspend in that watercolor. And I end up setting that aside to let it dry on its own. For the next panel, I'm going to go ahead and take just one Lindy's Magical Shaker, and this is Bavarian Blue. And I'm going to go ahead and spread that with my panel already spritzed with water. And then I will go ahead and layer that and spritz it with more water and then move that around with my baby aspirator. And that's pretty much it for this panel. I let this dry on its own as well. And then I'm going to start assembling the cards. So for this first panel with the roses on it, I didn't have enough of this gold piece to make a full panel on all 4 sides. And so I just pushed it off so that there's only some gold trim on the left-hand side of the card. And I'm going to go ahead and take my card panel and adhere that to that gold piece. And then I will adhere the entire panel with my glitter glue. And I'll go ahead and adhere that to my card base. And then for the little cutout piece, I went ahead and matted that on another piece of that gold paper. And I took the sentiment and put that on a piece of gold paper as well. The sentiment says just because, and that is a piece of tracing paper that has the words gold embossed. I added a few gems and adhered all the pieces, and that's pretty much it. It's probably my least favorite card out of the bunch. But yeah. So for the next card, this is the completed panel. And all I'm doing is I've adhered it to my card base. I had this butterfly from the Simon Says stamp kit, and I didn't end up using it, so I grabbed that. And then the sentiment is embossed in gold, and I am just putting glue behind that portion of the writing. And it says, the sentiment says, listen to the whispers of your heart. It's a very old stamp set that I bought off of a Facebook yard sale group, and so I don't know what the brand is, but of course I got that crooked. So I went ahead and set a block on it to let it dry, and I'm going to go ahead and grab the very last panel. I am using this die from Kaisercraft. It's called Crisscross Moon or something to that effect, but I will have all supplies listed in the description as always. I went ahead and took a white panel and used some mustard seed distress oxide behind that moon, and so I just adhered the blue panel onto the yellow background, and then I will adhere those 2 pieces to my card base. And then I'm going to take the moon, which I have die cut in black as well, and so I'm going to put that right into that center portion where the moon came out of. And then I remembered I had this, I just bought this because I saw Tracy Schultz, she had something similar to this where all she did was she took her die cut and she pressed it on this paper and the glue magically went in the back. So I found this on Amazon. It's called Artist Tack. So basically all you do is pull up the release paper, you stick your die cut down so that your sticky side is at the back of your die cut, and it sticks it like glue. It was just so awesome that I didn't have to glue all those little intricate pieces of the die. It was just super cool. And then I added the sentiment, I believe in you, and that will complete that card. And the last card, I'll go ahead and show that here in just a second. I also added some Trinity Stamps embellishments. And then this is the completed card for the last card. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this video or found it informative, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. As always, thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me, and I hope to catch you next time.